Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio, your global feel good radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is Bill DeBarba. Bill DeBarba is the author of a new book, The Process of Living: Make Your Dreams Become Your Reality. You can find out more about Bill DeBarba and his wonderful work at theprocessofliving.com. Welcome, Bill DeBarba.
Thank you.
Now, Bill DeBarba, your book is called The Process of Living. What exactly is the process of living?
Well, the premise of the book is quite simple. The process of living consists of three pillars: thought, feeling, and action. When you consider it, this is what makes us up. This makes up our relationships. This makes up what we accomplish, how we feel about ourselves. Everything that we do on this planet is a combination of some form of those three things: thought, feeling, and action.
Okay. Now, can you explain for our audience how the components of this process interact with each other?
Yes. First of all, it's important to note that the three components really do speak different languages. It's kind of like if you were eating an orange and I were to step by and point to it and say, "What is that? I've never had one of those." And you were to try to describe to me in words what the orange tastes like. So you might start out, well, it's sweet, it's juicy, but it's got a little bit of an acid taste, so it's not like eating candy. You could talk all day long, and I will not have the faintest clue of what an orange tastes like until you peel off a slice and give it to me, and I taste it. So it's kind of like that. Thoughts are words. In our mind, thoughts are words in one form or another. Feelings, although we can just try to describe them, don't really have words. They're a feeling in our gut, in our heart. They can be tension, they could be joy, they could be anything, but they are their own thing. And then we have action. And what is action? Well, our brain sends signals down to various paths to muscle groups and the heart and the lungs, depending on what the action is. And that all happens within us, and most of it is automatic. I mean, since we were a little baby, we figured out how to walk. We don't have to think about it anymore. So those things happen automatically. Now, the problem is they speak different languages. How are they going to interact? Well, we have another thing called the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is the translator. The subconscious mind lets us understand, even if it's not in words, at the thinking level, we understand what our feelings are. We direct our actions. Sometimes our actions are directed by our feelings. Sometimes they're directed by thought. These can happen in any way, but our subconscious mind, which does a lot more than this, but what it does, it provides a translation. Now, it doesn't dictate, and it's up to us whether we pay attention, but it's there. And that's how all three come together and define us.
You know, what's very interesting, Bill DeBarba, is your process of living is very similar to how I look at the body when I do a medical intuitive reading. Because when I do a medical intuitive reading, I would read what's going on the physical level. That's your body, what you think of as your body, your bones, your organs, your blood, the things that you think of as real. Then you have an energy system, which includes your chakras, your acupuncture system, and your breath, okay? Then you have emotions, which are, as you pointed out, you may be able to talk about how you're feeling, but emotions are literally feelings. They're sensations. They're energy in motion. And then there's your mind. Your mind includes your thoughts and your beliefs. And finally, there's your soul, which is the eternal part of you and what's going on in your soul. So I wrote about what's going on in your soul in my latest book, Reading the Soul. But here's the thing. This is my understanding as a medical intuitive. Your soul controls your mind, okay? Your mind, which is your thoughts and beliefs, control your emotions. Your emotions control your energy system, and your energy system controls your body. So there's a very famous um, lady who discovered endorphins, and she said your body is your subconscious mind. So, you know, when we're here at the Natural Healing Show talking about healing. So when you want to get well, if you're experiencing disease or illness that's already manifested in the physical, you've got to push what's going on out, not only through the physical, but through your energy body, through your emotions, through your mind, and all the way to the soul. So, so your view of the process of living, thoughts, feelings, and action. So thoughts are your mind, feelings are your emotions, and action involves our physical body.
Correct.
Now, Bill DeBarba, you are a long-term entrepreneur. What kind of influence does this process of living have on our lives?
Well, it pretty much defines our life. As an entrepreneur, I learned without even studying, I just learned from observations that how managing these things and understanding the management that's taking place in someone else, and not with education, just with paying attention, allowed me to be more effective in my business, in my relationship with my clients, in my relationship with my employees. And I'm kind of proud of the fact that in 40 years, we never had a lawsuit going either way, which is very unusual. But I believe firmly that it was the awareness of this process, even before I defined it. In fact, what I've done since then was putting into words the experience that I've had. As I went through all this, it works. Now I've talked about and studied, why does it work? How does it work?
Okay. Now, in your book, The Process of Living, where you talk about thoughts, feelings, and actions, you're talking about this process. Can you give us a concrete example of the process of living?
I can. In fact, this is something that took place before I understood it. I was in the Air Force. It was the tail end of the Vietnam War. I was stationed in Phoenix. I got assigned to Phoenix. Now, I come from New England. And if you were to think about New England and Arizona, it's like a different planet. And so I didn't really want to go. I mean, all I thought of was desert and, you know, John Wayne hitching his horse and going into the bar with the guns loaded and the whole, that kind of a process. And quite frankly, in 1970, it wasn't that much different, but it still was an interesting place. And when I came out here, was I surprised? The variation in landscape and environment is absolutely amazing. I would go skiing up in Flagstaff one day, come home, and in t-shirts and shorts, have a barbecue in the same day. I just loved it. And then seeing the Grand Canyon absolutely blew me away. It is the most amazing place I've ever been to. Well, when my duty was over, I wanted to stay here. Now, my degree's in engineering, but it was the tail end again of the war, and a lot of defense industry companies were laying off really experienced engineers. So I tried, but I couldn't come close to getting a job here. So I told myself I would put together a 5-year plan. So I had the thought, I definitely had the feelings about that I wanted to be here, and I took the action. All three were in tune with each other. That's not always the case, but in this case, they were. So I went back to my job, knowing that I had that job. I had it before I left, so they had to give it back to me. And the engineering job that I had, and I had the plan. And the plan was I'll gain some experience. The economy will shift, it always does. And I will be able to go down to Arizona and find another job. 5 years. Well, as it turned out, I was assigned to a particular area that was brand new and only a handful of engineers knew about. And I had worked on it for a year. Now, I didn't know that. I just was assigned to it and just did the job. Within a year, at the end of 1 year, I got a call from a headhunter who wanted me to talk to a company in Massachusetts who was in this technology and was interested. So I went to see the company. And at the beginning of the interview, they said, we need to know if you're willing to relocate. And I said, well, that depends. Where are you going to send me? And he said, well, the plant we need you at is in Phoenix, Arizona. My 5-year plan became a 1-year plan. And it happened because I was so focused on that goal with thoughts, feelings, and actions. Now, at the time, I didn't understand this, and I told everybody in the 3-state area that it was a great coincidence that this happened. I have since learned that there aren't coincidences,
Right.
that things happen for a specific reason. And this process is a big part of it.
Now, what I find very interesting about your
Okay.
process of living is that when we want to do something, when you want to make a change, you have to take in account all 3 aspects. So you have to have a thought, which is, I'm willing to get better, or or I want to get a new job, right? And then you have to take into account your emotions, because emotions are the largest part of any of us, right? And so you want to
Yes,
get your
absolutely.
emotions in line. And what that looks like for any goal is to clear the emotional blocks to getting better. So if I'm doing healing work, I'm going to be identifying what are the emotions that are causing an illness to stay in place. And what do we need to do to clear the emotions so that you can get well? Because there's 25 different ways that people can be addicted to being in pain. And finally, you have to take the action. It's not enough to just think about it or, to clear your emotions. You have to take action. Right?
And I agree completely. Too many people think that this law of attraction means it's going to automatically come to you. And the law of attraction, in most cases, it can happen occasionally, but in most cases, the law of attraction leads you to the path. It leads you to the way that it's going to happen.
Right.
And that's what happened to me.
Right. Now, what notable personal experiences has the use of this process had in achieving goals?
Well, what I just described is one of them, and a very clear one. I've had many other that have taken place, and here's an example where I think the expression is, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times where you're taken isn't exactly the direction you're taken isn't exactly the one that you thought.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when I wanted to start my business, I felt that I didn't have the experience yet to do what I really wanted to do, which was the programming. So I bought another business which had nothing to do with this, because I had learned, I'm the first generation of Italian immigrants, and I was taught very, very early on is you work hard. Nobody said anything about enjoying it. That wasn't important. What you do is you just work hard. That's it. So I said, well, I don't like this, but that's okay. I'm going to work hard. I'll turn this business around. I'll make the money I need to get my education, so on and so on. Well, what actually happened, long story short, I was bankrupt in a year and a half. The business went down. No matter how much I tried, my heart and soul were not in it. And I didn't understand the importance of that. So I had to learn that. And my subconscious, the law of attraction said, well, if you want to be here, you're going to have to get here first, because you need to learn that what you're thinking and how you're feeling about this doesn't work. So when I went bankrupt and I managed to survive that, I decided to go ahead and start the business. I figured if I'm going to be poor, at least I'll do what I want. And within 3 years, I'd paid off all the debt. I had a new home. I had a new car. Everything was taking off. And that's when I started to realize I'm missing something here. There's part of this that I don't get. And that's what started me on the search that led to this book.
Right. Now, are there any circumstances where this process of living, of thoughts, feeling, and action does not apply?
No, it applies every time and everywhere. However, it may seem not to apply in cases. For example, we may have a thought about something and convince ourselves that we want it, but deep down inside, we're not consistent. And while the subconscious will communicate, it doesn't dictate. It basically, okay, this is where you are. I'm sure that many people, I know that millions of people have read the book, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I'm willing to bet that not a high percentage of those people grew rich and probably thought, this doesn't work. But what they may not have been aware of is they had buried feelings within them like, well, I never went to college. How can I possibly get rich? Or the last 3 generations of my family have been poor. Do I think I'm better than them? Now, this is not in thought, but this is in feeling, and this is what's taking place. And the poor subconscious mind is going, well, let me know when you make up your mind, what it is you want to do. And that brings up another point. The subconscious mind pays most of it, and I know I'm describing this differently than you have described it, but I haven't read all your books yet. I'm going to work on that. But the subconscious mind, if it has to make a decision, is going to decide in favor of feelings, because your feelings are honest. You can convince yourself to think anything you want. You can convince yourself to do anything you want, but you can't lie about your feelings. And your subconscious mind is going to take you in the direction of your feelings. So if you're thinking you're unworthy of thinking and growing rich, and its feelings is in there, your subconscious will take you that way. And unfortunately, if you don't understand this, you will think this stuff doesn't work. It's not worth it.
What I find very interesting, Bill DeBarba, is that you, and just from your years of experience as a successful entrepreneur, the process that you have outlined is very similar to the process that I do when I do my healing work, because you set a goal. So let's pick something, for example, that someone in our audience may be going through. Let's say you decided that it might be a good idea for you to stop smoking. And on the mental level, you come up with all the reasons why you want to stop smoking. It'll kill you. That's a good one.
Yes.
You want to have cleaner air in your home or your office for your family or your coworkers. So, there's other people to be considered, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Maybe you decided that you want to live longer, or you want to get more fit, or you want to have better skin. So there's 100 reasons on the mental level that you could make a good decision. But then, as you mentioned, if you don't address what's really going on the emotional level, then you're not going to be successful. So what are the emotions that have caused you to smoke? So what I find is whenever anybody's got any addiction, whether it's drugs, legal or illegal, smoking, over-exercising, overworking, there's always emotions that you're suppressing or repressing. It's like you're trying to literally numb yourself so you don't feel those feelings. And in my work, I say that it's very crucial that you identify your emotional blocks, A, and B, actually clear them, because emotions can shut down literally any process. So you may decide it's a good idea that I stop smoking, but I'm feeling really anxious. I have a lot of anxiety in my life. And, smoking is a habit that I can do to just distract myself from how anxious I really feel. So you've got to do that inner work of clearing the underlying, again, of A, identifying the emotions, what's causing this illness, what's causing this addiction, and then B, take the steps to actually unwind that. And then finally, you have to do the thing, which is throw the cigarettes away or put them in the freezer, or, slowly winnow down so that you cut back by half every day, right? And another simple way to take action when you're trying to overcome an addiction is to start counting. I'm smoking so many cigarettes a day. I'm eating so many cookies a day. I'm eating so many, cups of ice cream. So when you want to control something or change something, start counting it. And I'm sure you notice that with your money. When you start counting your money and paying attention to your money, whatever you focus on improves, right?
Yes.
Right? So what physical healing benefits can be experienced by a person who's aware of and practicing the process of living?
Well, the physical benefits of going through this process has to do very much with how much, and I know you know this, how much of your body's health is what's going on within you, how you truly feel, what's actually going on there. And I think one of the problems is that in our medical community, and these doctors are amazing in what they know and how they treat us, but too many times they tell us how it's going to work and what's going to happen. 12 years ago, I was engaged to a woman who was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer.
Oh.
And when we brought her in, and we went through all of the process, the doctor said, you have 2 years. You will live about 2 years. She came within 1 month of living 2 years. And I really believe that part of that is that she trusted the knowledge and understanding of the doctor. And so that's what she did.
Right.
And I would love to see our medical approach change a little bit. Get the person involved in their healing beyond drugs and other, methodologies. Get them involved. Let them show them that they can dictate this. Because again, they have authority. So if they tell you that you have a great role here, that you can dictate this change through meditation, through various techniques, whatever it takes, you're more likely to follow that and involve yourself in a self-healing because you heard it from an authority.
Right. And, it is definitely true that the mind, your body achieves what your mind believes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, that's what we're here talking about here on the Natural Healing Show. I have great respect for the medical community. My brother's a doctor. My dad's a doctor. My grandfather was a doctor. My great-grandfather was a doctor. My uncle was a doctor. And the doctors are wonderful. They're working primarily on that physical. And your physical body is literally just the results, right?
Yes.
Your
yes.
life is the results. Your money is the results. Your life, your body, your money is the results of what you're thinking and how you're feeling. So if you want to change what's happening on the physical level, again, you have to look at your thoughts, examine how you're really feeling, and then take appropriate action, right?
Yes.
So, given the example that you mentioned, if I've worked with many clients over the years who have had stage 4 cancer of all kinds, you have to look at, okay, what are the thought processes that led you to this, right? So what I find with cancer is that many people, we all are going to die, even us health nuts, it's 100%, right? So,
absolutely.
But it may be a way of taking yourself out of the picture, right? It's like, you may, on some level, you may be ready. Or I have a lot of clients, when you reach a certain age, you get a disease, right? So, and then on the emotional level, what are all the emotions behind large intestine? Large intestine actually has a great deal to do with money. It also has to do with guilt, grief, letting go, release, right? Self-esteem. So, when I have a client who's got an illness in a specific organ, we're going to look at and drill down what are all the emotions that you're holding in that organ that are actually causing you to be unwell, because you hold emotions literally in every organ of your body, right? And then you have to take action. There's probably a lot of action that you have to take when you've got cancer, right? So, when you've got a serious diagnosis like that, you probably want to take an integrated approach and listen to the doctors, but at the same time, really clean up your lifestyle to the maximum effect so that you can take advantage of all kinds of healing, including natural healing. So whether it's calming your mind so that the stress hormones don't get the better of you, going through that very difficult process of surgery or radiation, changing your diet so you're alkalizing, juicing, and again, figuring out exactly what it is that you need and taking the steps necessary. Now, several times in your book, The Process of Living, you mentioned the value of meditation. I myself spent about an hour and a half praying and meditating this morning. So the many benefits of meditation are well documented. How does the process of meditation apply to what you refer to as the process of living?
Well, let me step back a moment and just comment on what you were saying earlier. One of the most important things that you do is allow people to understand that they have the control. And too many times we give up that control. Someone says, but whenever someone says this, or whenever someone does that, I'm going to feel this way. Well, okay, then obviously you've given them the control. You can't give up the responsibility for it, but you will give up the control. And what you're doing is beautiful in the sense that, well, in many senses, but in the sense that you are helping people understand that they do have the control, and don't give it up. Just because a doctor says this doesn't mean you have to comply with that. And so I love that.
Right.
But to go on with your question, what is the benefit of meditation in this process? Well, again, like you said, there's many, many benefits. But one of the things that goes on in our society right now, in the Western society, is we focus so much on our thoughts. We never let them stop. It goes on and on and on. And what happens is the feelings get pushed into the background. And we have no awareness of it. But what's going on at the subconscious level is aware of it and influences what direction our life is going. The benefit of meditation is it allows us, it gives us a technique to slow it down. It's hard to stop altogether. I haven't figured that out yet, but you can really slow it down. And what happens as a result is that you become more in touch with those feelings. You have an awareness of those feelings, those things you've been ignoring all the time, but have been directing you in a different direction than you thought you should be going. Now you can gain some understanding. And regular meditation does a wonderful job of helping to slow down the one, bring back up the other.
Well, when I do healing work with clients, I find that many clients have problems literally on the mental level. Now, when I say on the mental level, I'm not saying they're mentally ill, but what I am saying is the way they are thinking is making them sick, right? And
Yes.
so if you are holding a story in your mind, the world is horrible, I'll never make it, everybody in my family dies when they're 65, whatever this story is that you're holding in mind, if it's not helping you, then you have the power to change it. And the first thing you have to do is to recognize what that story is. What are those thoughts? So to me, the value of meditation for me is it allows me to clear the mind, just like I take a shower every day. So I clean my body. Well, it's a means of clearing my mind so that when I begin the day, I can literally program in positive thoughts, right? Like I live in a beautiful universe. Einstein said the most important question is whether or not you consider the universe to be a friendly place. If you live in a friendly place, then and your thought is everything that happens is for my highest good, then that's a totally different life experience from everybody's out to get me, it's my mother's fault, it's my dad's fault, I'm everybody gets sick, at this age or whatever, or nobody likes fill in the blank your race, nobody likes fill in your blank your gender. So again, you have to look at what are the thoughts that are making you sick. And that's part of what I identify when I'm doing a medical intuitive reading. The other thing is on an emotional level, of course, we all live in a very stressful society. And when you meditate, you're literally not just interrupting your thoughts, but you're turning off the stress hormones, right? So it allows you to have a different feeling in your body, a little different felt state, right? So, you're not driven by the stress. Now, Bill DeBarba, there are a large number of books written on the subject of the power of thought. What's different about the process of living? Because we know that what you hold in mind, you tend to manifest. What's different about your book, The Process of Living?
A lot of the books, like the one I mentioned before, Think and Grow Rich, focus totally on thought and don't mention anything about feelings. And I think the biggest role, the biggest influence, and don't get me wrong, thought is very important, but the biggest influence the thought has is how it controls your feeling. You mentioned, or how it not so much controls it, but dictates it, how it comes about as a result of some of the thoughts. You mentioned Einstein, and he had a very famous quote: "Problem cannot be solved on the same level of consciousness that created it." So if you cannot separate yourself from those thoughts, if you cannot do the things that you just described that actually change the feelings that are being generated from that thought, you have reached, if you can do that, you have reached another level of consciousness, of awareness. And that will influence the feelings. And it's my belief that it's the feelings that drive what goes on.
Right. And, you know, that's very much what
Thoughts can drive feelings, but it's the feelings that really drive the law of attraction.
Yes. And, you know, that is very much my experience as a medical intuitive healer. Again, I find that it's absolutely crucial. You know, yes, you go to the doctor. Absolutely go to the doctor. I went to the dermatologist and the dentist last week. Good idea, right? You know, but at the
Yes.
same time, if you've got a problem with your body, you have to ask yourself, what are the emotions that are driving this disease process? Because what I find is that if you don't resolve the underlying emotions, you know, the issues and the energy just moves in some other direction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And right, so it's very crucial that you've got to, again, identify. So what are the emotions causing me to be sick, and then clear it. So for our audience, I want to point out a very helpful resource. I've got two websites, catherinecarrigan.com and also unlimitedenergynow.com. If you go to unlimitedenergynow.com, there is a free download that you can print out at any time for free that identifies the primary emotions behind your organs. So if you go to Unlimited Energy Now and then scroll over at the top to free downloads, click on that, and then go down to media, there is a free download, and I believe it's called Emotions in Your Health. And it is one of the many charts that I use when I'm trying to identify what are the emotions holding this disease process in place, right? Because you could
Yes.
name any organ in your body, and I could tell you, here are the unresolved emotions behind that. Now, Bill DeBarba, here at the Natural Healing Show, we help people be healthy naturally. Can you give us an example using your process about how a person might use your process of living in order to get healthier?
You've described it so well, I'm not sure what I can add to it, because that is the key, is understanding that it is the emotions driving it. One of the problems that people who don't understand this concept have is they look at a disease as happening to them. They don't look at a disease as something they are drawing in based on the emotions that they're feeling. So if you understand that, you can do something about it. If you don't believe that, if you believe that it was just the environment and the way I was brought up, it wasn't healthy, my dad smoked, I smoked, whatever, okay? If that's what you believe, then your belief will carry you through to probably not so good results. But the understanding and what you show people is perfect. You show them that they are experiencing these things, these emotions, these feelings, probably as a result of thought, that that's what's creating them, and that they have the control. I like to talk about the blame game. You know, when you get into the blame game, nothing works. You can have other people, I blame this person for this, I blame this person for this, my parents were mean to me, the people at work don't treat me with respect. You can go on with this without understanding that what's really happening is what you are creating within you. And by the way, the main thing you want to avoid in the blame game is blaming yourself. Because if you're blaming yourself, you can't get out of that. And that will create the same problem as blaming other people. You can get the other people out of your life. You can't get you out of it. And so understanding that you have the control doesn't mean you're to be blamed because it hasn't worked. It just means you weren't educated. You didn't understand. And once you understand, you can make a difference.
Yeah, and you bring up something really important, Bill DeBarba, which is the importance of on the mental level, on the thought level, taking responsibility. So taking responsibility for your health, taking responsibility for your money, your well-being, your overall condition in life, right? So, and it doesn't mean that there aren't real things like air pollution or glyphosate and non-GMO foods, but again, if you start with your thought. So this process of living that you described, do you start with the thoughts? Do you start with the emotion, or do you start with the action? Where do you start with this process?
You can start at any one of them, and you can drive the other. You could take an action that gives you a feeling. You could be driving your car and someone cuts you off and you step on the brakes and you have a feeling of fear. And then you're going to do something about it, maybe, and it may involve putting together 4-letter words and creative combinations. There could be any number of things that would drive that. The most common is thought, creating feeling, going to action. That's the most common direction that it goes, but not the only. It can be any combination of the communication between them that can take place.
Right. And since you pointed out that most of the time we're going to start with thoughts, it could be, again, making a choice, like I choose to feel better. I choose to have a higher level of health. I choose to take care of myself so I can be a better parent or be a better partner, right? Or I want to fit into my jeans, whatever the reason is, right? And even on the
Yes.
mental level, there's a lot of layers to that, because I look at whether a person is willing to get better. So there's 25 different ways you can be addicted to pain, right? And a lot of this is on the mental level. Like I want to be thinner, but I don't want to go to the gym, or I want to be thinner, but I don't want to stop eating key lime pie, right? So, what's going on your thoughts level, right? Um, and then again, it's these thoughts that are creating the emotion. Now, what other means are there that will help people understand how to apply the process of living?
I think it's important that people understand, if they want to make a change, sometimes, many times, you must make a change in your environment as well. I give monthly presentations to a women's prison near here, to a group that's in the Second Chance program. And I come in and talk to them when they're about to be released. And one of the things I emphasize, because it's not hard to imagine that they came from environments that were not exactly healthy. And one of the things I emphasize to them is, if you wish to change, you must pay attention to your environment. If you're in an environment that's feeding to you the same signals that have gotten you here, then the likelihood that you'll come back here becomes very high. Join a club, make friends at a new job, go to a church, but make sure you check it out, that it's something that you can be comfortable with and you believe in. But change your environment that's pushed you here, because that environment focuses the thoughts, supports the feelings that got you in this bad place to begin with. Now, can you be in that environment and turn everything around? I don't know. Can you climb Mount Everest? I mean, it's hard. It's very hard if you don't pay attention to the environment you're in and find yourself in an environment that will support a new way, a different thought, a different set of feelings, a different set of actions.
That's just really beautiful advice, Bill DeBarba. And, I'm always pointing out to my clients that environment is the most powerful factor. And the example that I give is my orchids. So if you go to my website, catherinecarrigan.com, you'll notice that I happen to be obsessed with orchids. I raise orchids in my healing room. People walk in and like, I feel better already, because they're just, surrounded by the most sublime beauty. Well, you could take the most healthy, gorgeous orchid and put it in the dark and not water it, and it will die, right?
Absolutely.
And I point out to my clients, you're exactly like that. And this comes into the arena of action, is that you have to choose to put yourself in the environment where you're most likely to succeed. So if you maybe join a gym, you're more likely to exercise, right?
Hmm.
Right?
Yes.
And if you live in a home that's full of toxic mold, we've done shows here at the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio about problems in your home, caused by toxic mold in your home. So there may be factors in your home that you're not even aware of. But if you're always sick when you're at home, or you felt better until you moved into a certain house, you have to examine that home. And then certainly part of your environment is the people that you associate with. So if you're trying to overcome smoking, for example, we talked about that. If you surround yourself with other people who smoke, then more than likely you're going to want to do that too.
Of
But if
course.
you associate with people who are not doing the addiction that you're trying to break out of, you're surround yourself with the non-smokers who are doing healthy things, you're more likely to succeed, right?
Yes. I have to tell you something about the smoking part, just real quickly. Um, my dad used to smoke 4 packs of cigarettes a day in the 1940s. This is before he met my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to the doctor because he was having trouble with coughing and whatnot. And of course, at that time, they didn't really understand yet just how bad smoking was. They still had people who were dressed in doctor outfits recommending a certain cigarette at the back of a magazine. And the doctor said, look, you don't have to quit, but you got to give yourself some time to breathe in between. And this is one of the things that I admire so much about my dad. He was walking home and he thought to himself, I am not going to be a slave to these things. And he took a pack that he had opened just a little while ago, dropped it down a sewer, never smoked again. That
Wow.
took incredible discipline.
Wow. And that's an example of your thoughts control your emotions, which control your actions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's a very powerful mind that your father had, right? To be able to
Absolutely.
make up your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you that a lot of change does begin in the mind, in your thoughts, where you have to say, I've had enough. I'm tired of not being able to breathe, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, so Bill DeBarba, any any important messages that you want our readers and our listeners and our audience to come away with from this process of living?
The most important thought I have that I would like people to take away is please understand you have the ultimate power within you. If you haven't been using it correctly, if you've been giving it up to someone else and you realize that, it's not about blame. Don't go backwards. Learn what you can do and feel the joy that takes place when you know you have this ability. You can control things. You can make your life the way you want it to be. That's the message.
That's the message. So that's about really choosing to choose. So if you're listening to this broadcast today, maybe think of one area of your life that you would like to improve, whether it's your health, whether it's your self-care, whether it's your environment, about creating a healthier environment for your family or in your office. So make up your mind, choose to choose, and then as you make up your mind and make a choice about being healthy, then notice what emotions arise for you. Okay?
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
if there are emotional blocks, then again start by identifying what are the emotions that are holding me back. Again, you can go to Unlimited Energy Now, scroll across the top to like free downloads, and then scroll down and find the chart on emotions and your health. And just get curious. If you know that you always have problems with your large intestine or your lungs or any particular organ, get curious. What are the emotions that I'm feeling on a regular basis that are literally holding this disease in place? And then finally, ask yourself, what actions do I need to take? And, throwing your cigarettes down the drain is a big step, right? I mean, that's really to be
Yes.
commended. And whether you're taking a small step or a big step, just ask yourself, what can I do today to move forward? And, I always talk about to my clients about the 2% rule. So sometimes change is so overwhelming that it feels like not even possible. But if you ask yourself, what can I do to make this situation 2% easier? So thoughts, feelings, and actions. You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. Find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. We have been listening to Bill DeBarba, author of The Process of Living, Make Your Dreams Become Your Reality. You can find out more about Bill DeBarba and his wonderful work at theprocessofliving.com. And remember, you are in charge. Make up your mind, find the emotions, and take action. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.